Welcome to Untrained. Hi, Whitney.
Hey, Iris.
Hi. We have a fun and special episode. I'm very excited about it. We have Megan Jo Wilson on with us, certified coach, leadership trainer, musician, mother, author, and founder of Rockstar for Women. I love what she has on her. Yeah, woo is right. And I love what she has on her website. I work with women that deeply desire to be more active participants in creating a more joyful, sane, and equitable world. While most women know the tactics in their heads and on paper, the act of stepping out, speaking up, and claiming space as an expert feels utterly, viscerally terrifying. Amen. She doesn't have the amen. I added the amen.
Yes, we'll all add our amens, 100%. And what's not in the bio, but that I love, is that she's also the author of Who the F Am I to Be a Rock Star? Who the F Am I to Be a Coach? And No More Playing Small.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hi, Megan Jo Wilson.
Hi to both of you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, let me tell a story as to how you got here. And first of all, I'm wearing sequins, so we all know that if I'm wearing sequins, that's something special. But they felt right for interviewing the rock star. So
what's on the pants part of the ensemble?
Oh, come on! I'm still in the spandex from this morning. Don't expect too much from me.
The many facets of woman.
Exactly, with my goofy little house shoes. But I got the earrings and the sparkly top. So about a decade ago, yours truly decided to go take a risk to become a coach. And I was sitting in the hotel ballroom room with all the rows of chairs, waiting to be introduced to the second instructor who was going to be with me for the weekend. And, usually they're like, my name is so-and-so, and I'm from so-and-so, and here's my experience. But not Megan Jo. She leaned back in her chair, she tipped her head back, and she started to sing. And we were all like, whoa, this weekend's going to be a little different. And I've never forgot that. And because of that, I've followed you all these years in your newsletter. And at the beginning of the summer, I was like, I need some Megan Jo. So I reached out to work with you. So I've been working with you since the summer to help me with the Who the F Am I and the No More Playing Small and all the da-da-da-da-da-da. So that's why it seemed like a beautiful opportunity to have you on today and talk about the work you do through Rockstar Camp and other things.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. Our journeys have woven in and out. You are a student who, in that class, was unforgettable to me. I have loved following your journey. I have loved watching this podcast unfold. And I've had so much fun working and playing with you this summer.
Yeah. And for once, I'm not crying when we start meetings. Usually I do, which is good.
Megan Jo, I'd love to just have 1 second to talk about how you got to coaching where you are today, because everyone has a coaching story of how I got to where I am today, of coaching and helping other women. And this is why I chose this path. So I'd love to kind of hear that elevator speech.
Yeah. I took my first coach training 20 years ago. This year is my 20th anniversary of being a trained coach and working with clients. I met coaching through my older brother, who went to what's now called Coactive Training Institute. And he came back like fired up. And my brother and I are very close. And he said, listen, you got to go to this training. It's what you do anyway. You can make a living doing this. At the time, I was a musician, a farmer, and a chef. So I said, okay, I trust my brother. I drove to Providence, Rhode Island in my beat up car, walked into the hotel conference room and was like, this is really wild. This is really interesting. I don't know how I feel about this. But by the end of that first training, I knew this is, and the only words I could say at the end of that course was, this is very important work. That's all I could say. This is very important work. Tears streaming down my face. And from that weekend on, I have been in this industry, working with people one-on-one and in groups. and eventually applied for and was hired to teach at that same organization. And that's how I met Whitney, right? So I'm one of the front of the room trainers who teaches this model. And boy, the industry has changed a lot in 20 years, but the heart of it is really still deeply important to me. And I still stand by this is very important work, asterisk, when it's done with integrity.
Well, I'd love to hear how the Rockstar camps came to be.
Yeah.
Because they weren't something you did out of the gates. They were an evolution and a solution.
Totally. Yeah. So the best way to describe that arc is in my coach training at the same time, obviously in the span of 20 years, I've coached CEOs, I've coached artists, I've coached entrepreneurs, I've coached women transitioning out of incarceration, I've coached small businesses, I've coached homeless people, I've coached managers, right? I've coached just a huge, huge array of humans. And I have studied leadership development also over that arc of 20 years. My mom was like an OD leadership development person. So it's sort of like, I grew up with these kinds of books. Leadership matters, from the time I was a little girl. And at the same time, I'm doing all of this. I also, since the time I could get into bars, have been a professional singer and performer and songwriter, and started performing with other bands and other people. I sang in choruses, I sang in wedding bands, I sang in rock bands, I sang in a reggae band, I sang, so there was a time in my life where I was rehearsing and or like gigging 5 or 6 nights a week. And then also doing my day jobs and also coaching and training and coaching. And I noticed at some point, so much of what was being taught in leadership had to do with impact, had to do with voice, had to do with commanding attention, values, alignment, communication, reading the energy of a room. And a lot of it, I was like, this is so interesting because a lot of this I've learned as a live performer where you're really improvising all the time and you're essentially dancing with who you're going to be when shit goes wrong, not if shit goes wrong. It's like a good leader just knows how to improv that. So I knew there was a connection between leadership, coaching, and live music, but I couldn't piece it together until one night after a big Christmas show with a big band that I sing in called the Fog Cutters. We did the show and it was spectacular. And then afterwards we get off stage and say hi to people and give hugs. And sometimes people want our autograph, which is very exciting. And this woman came up to me and it was such a profound moment. I don't know who she is or was. I never saw her again, but she said, I would give anything to be able to do what you do up there. And for whatever reason, the way she said it in that moment, I thought I could give that to you. I could give you that experience. What she was saying is like, how did you sing in a spotlight with a crowd that big and look so happy and relaxed? I would give anything to have that experience. And my thought was like, well, if you gave me some money, I could give you that experience. I know the band I would hire. I know the coaching skills I would give you. I know how to teach you how to sing. I know how to teach you how to hold space. And I went home and outlined an entire curriculum that is essentially the same curriculum I use today for putting untrained musicians, women on stage to sing with a live band and audience as a leadership development experience, as a somatic experiential leadership development experience. And I didn't know if it would work. But I piloted it and it worked spectacularly. And every woman and a handful of men actually who've done it, who've gone through it, have said it profoundly and utterly changed the way that they lead, the way they show up, the way they speak, the way they relate. Everything is different, is essentially like what all of my grads say. So it was like a combination of strategy and also one of those like divine download moments, as people like to call them. I don't know. It just came through in that moment. Mm-hmm. How it would work, what it would look like. And it has been so fun. It is so profound. It is so impactful.
Why do you think it's so profound and so impactful? Because you also do all the other stuff, right? You also give people skills in other ways without this particular experience. What is it about this experience?
Yes. So many things. But one of them, in that intro that you read, so many women, despite our brilliance, multiple certifications, PhDs, training, lived experience, wisdom, do have a sort of love-hate relationship with being seen and heard. We want it, but we don't. We want it, but it's like, don't look at me too much. But I want you to hear me, but I don't want you. It's, and for some women, it's like a truly terrifying prospect. And so why this works is we're taking this metaphorical thing of being seen and heard and making it literal. So when I put her in a literal spotlight with a literal microphone and a literal band of men by design behind her, and she's doing this thing that she's never done before, and she is using her voice in her body. You have to be in your body to sing. And the feedback she's getting from the live audience is, yeah. I mean, people fly in to come to this show, even if she can't sing well. And most of them are not spectacular because they're not trained singers. There is there's a somatic shift that happens because she does that thing. And not only does she not die, which is actually what many of them feel in the moments leading up to it. I'm going to die, or I'll be cast out, or I'll be humiliated. She has a blast and she moves people. So now she has a somatic understanding of that and a neurological, there's evidence that she can do scary things. She can do things imperfectly. She can be seen and heard and survive and actually enjoy it. So that's a huge part of it. Music itself has certain mysterious properties that even I don't understand. Music does things magical. So music is a part of it. And then they also have sisterhood. And that's the other piece of it. It's not Rockstar Camp for you individual. It's a group of 9, 10, 12 women going through the experience together. And then, having other women to see them and support them through the process of being vulnerable, of doing things imperfectly, of being scared, of having imposter syndrome. And I'm giving her all these tools and practices to return back to her own sanity, her own brilliance. And then she has community to move through that with. And every single one of my Rockstar groups and grads are still connected to this day, 6 years later, 5 years later. They are still going to each other's weddings, circling up, meeting, talking, bragging, encouraging each other, walking through funerals together. They are bonded for life. There's other things too, but those are the prime. That's why, it's like, it's not just talking about it. It's somatic.
No, it's doing it
in the body. Yeah.
Right.
What's something that surprised you from building this? Because we can't always predict all the things that can come of it. But is there something that's totally shocked you about it?
Yeah. Truly, the first one that I did, I felt so great about it until day one when the whole group I rented out this private island and I was on the island waiting for them. And I was like, what have I done? I didn't know if they would be booed off stage. I truly did not know. So here's what surprised me from that first one. And and onward. And it's such an important lesson for all of us. First of all, I rent the club space, and I rented it on purpose because I didn't want to have to rely on ticket sales or putting on a good show. I said, just let me have the space. I was friends with the club owner. This is a workshop space for me. Whatever happens, it's going to be for their learning. So I thought, like, even if people boo or walk out or like throw tomatoes at them, that will be learning too. We'll just learn from it. So that's like the worst that could happen. Even that we can survive. So the concert, and I have one coming up. The concert is sort of like part concert, part workshop. I go into the audience. I talk to them. It's even the concert is experiential. So the first couple women get on stage, and it's a pretty small crowd for the first one. There were maybe 30 people there. And I go out into the audience. No one's booing. No one's leaving. And my friend Craig is sobbing. Okay, my friend Craig is sobbing. And I go over to Craig and I'm like, what's going on, man? And he said, I'm so moved to see these women just having fun no matter what, and being in their confidence, even though this isn't their professional job, even though they're not doing it perfectly, they're having fun anyway. And it's making me realize all the places I don't go for something because I can't do it unless I'm perfect at it or as part of my job or my role or my profession. So the surprising thing was, the more vulnerable, the more imperfect, the more raw, the more transparent and joyful, the more the crowd goes crazy. Loves it. Loves it. That is not what I expected. That is not what I expected by any means. And the translation of that is, well, then as a leader, if I let go of perfection and I go for impact, vulnerability, transparency, joy, what lights me up, what matters to me, I can actually make a connection with my audience, with the world, with whatever it is I'm wanting to create. I don't have to worry about perfection as much as we've been trained to worry about perfection, as you both know so well.
Yep. Yeah, this is intersecting with so many other conversations we've had. And it like brings them all together in an, as you said, embodied experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And body's a big part of it.
It is.
Right? I mean, this group of women that's coming, they've got their song, they're putting together their outfits. And of course, it's all like, oh, I'm going to be on camera, right? I'm going to be on stage. They're going to see my thighs. They're going to see my stomach. They're going to see my face. They're going to see it's like, yeah, baby. So, and you ain't got time to lose no weight because this is not a 2-year program. So the only other option is to choose to know how beautiful you are. That's the only other option. And so we do a lot of practice around rewiring our seeing and thinking to see our beauty just as we are, just as we are.
I don't know why this question's popping into my head, but I'll go with it. If you got the opportunity to bring this program, someone gave you a grant to bring this program wherever you thought it was most useful, valuable, where would you bring it?
Kids and corporate.
What ages and what level corporate?
Yeah. I'm like, why?
I would bring it to kids, and these are both things that I'm exploring right now. I would bring it to kids because, again, it's not the singing and the concert piece is only one tiny part of the curriculum. Really, as I said before, part of why it works is learning and unlearning how to be in relentless self-approval of ourselves and in sisterhood with each other. So our culture doesn't teach us how to be in real sisterhood, meaning a radical support of one another. It's what we want to do. It's what women do naturally in the right context. but we're trained to compare and to complain and all that stuff. So, my daughter's 11. She's in 6th grade, just beginning. I mean, we're seeing this year and last year beginning to see the dynamics of, she just told me this week, one girl told another girl, "You look ugly today." Wow, you look ugly today. I've made some calls. Just, and this is just normal. It's like beginning to realize I have a body and it lives up to the standard or it doesn't. And so I think why not teach our girls at a young age how to be sister to one another in a very practical way. And then corporate interests me. I've worked in corporations. I loved my corporate jobs. I don't have all corporate is evil. And I talk to a lot of women in corporate environments who just feel like I really, the poster says be your whole person and bring your whole self and be vulnerable and live your values. But I'm actually hiding and editing a lot of who I am in these environments because that's what we do in corporate. So I think to have spaces where, particularly for women, where they get to vent, feel, express, support, be in their emotions, be in their bodies, and just have spaces and places to resource back to a more authentic humanity rather than performance and kind of masking up, which is what, how a lot of organizations run, in my experience.
It makes me think of Hannah Pryor's work, Good Awkward, and she talks a lot about sort of embracing these awkward moments. And this is literally saying yes to and throwing a party for an awkward moment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Celebrating it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a concert. There's a whole method and tools. There are many women and people who just say there is no way I'm singing on stage. I have no desire to do that. I will not do that. That is not, I'm not even scared. It's just a hard no. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it necessarily has to be singing, but there are, places to explore around expression.
Embodied expression.
Yeah. All the stuff that you guys know so well. And
they're actually really grounding for our nervous system. I mean, that's the thing we haven't even talked about. Singing and telling stories are grounding for the people doing and singing and telling and the people receiving. And that goes back to, I think, that it's been around for so long and it's just part of how we're wired. I mean, I took singing lessons in the pandemic, and one of the amazing byproducts was I feel less anxious when I hum or when I sing.
That's it. Mm-hmm. That's it. We're making sounds all the time, as long as we're able to speak and our vocal cords are functioning. A yawn is sound healing, a moan is sound healing, a scream is sound healing, a sigh is sound healing. So a lot of it we just do naturally. But singing is just a slow, it's the same as a slow yogic breath. It just has a tone to it. You have to, you have to let the air out slowly.
And really a long breath too.
And a long breath. Mm-hmm. And then it creates vibrations that, as it turns out, only 2% of the literal sound vibrations are coming out of our mouth, nostrils, ears, eyes, all those cavities. The rest of it is vibrating back in our body.
Ooh.
So 97% of whatever we're saying, those vibrations are rippling through the vessel of our bodies.
Come on, Iris, give me an ooh or an ah. Get those vocals going.
A laugh is sound healing, right?
Yeah, for sure. There was a long time, I think I told Whitney that I'd scream in my car. That was a different job.
We do a lot of screaming.
Yeah. And it was very releasing and helpful because of the vibration. There was a certain tone that I needed to hit, and then it felt like I was getting it all out. You said, I think I was reading somewhere that you're actually introverted. Is that, or that we could look at you and say, wow, she built this Rockstar Camp and she's all about like showmanship and all the things. But you really do talk about like, listen, I'm introverted and this isn't my thing. So tell me about what that and how the introversion plays into this and how music and introversion might be intertwined a little bit for you.
I'm so grateful for that question. Thank you so much. I love being an introvert. I love introverts. It is, our culture tends to reward extroverts and it's built for extroversion. So, I think you guys would know this, but not everybody knows introvert does not mean shy. It means a lot of things, but primarily it's how do we resource ourselves? So we recharge by being in solitude. And I get super energized by people. I'm like really energized being with you too, even through the screen. And when we if I did like 10 of these in a row, I'd want to sleep for a day. Or like go read a book for 2 hours or journal. So there are a lot of performers actually who are introverts. And my theory is that part of it is it's a way of connecting in an improvisational way, but there is some protection, right? There is a fourth wall. I have the microphone. When I'm leading a class or performing, you can't come do small talk with me. I am in charge of the space. And so it has a nice sort of boundaried container to it. And I also just want to acknowledge that all of us, and because I work with women, I'll just say women in particular, I find to be the most extraordinarily beautiful bouquet of different flavors. We are such a walking, living paradox and complexity. That's why I said, like, Whitney, you got your sequin. Listen, I have lace on and my slippers. So we get to be both. And I'm just really transparent about it in all of my workshops. We do a 3-day retreat. At lunch, I always have an introvert room at every retreat I do. So it's understood if you need a break, anyone, you can go into that room and it's understood that no one will talk to you. That's a quiet space to recharge if you need it. I do my meals separately and it's a total adrenaline rush for 3 days. And then I truly take a couple days and just like really retreat after that.
The last book, No More Playing Small, we talked about sort of this concept in our work together and how small and big mean different things at different times of our life. So could you talk a little bit about your understanding of what you even mean by no more playing small for yourself and your clients?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with saying, it's such a great, what do we mean by this? It's such a term that's thrown around, like, let's play big and what does that mean? The title, I will just say full transparency, was in many ways born out of the work I was doing at the time with Marianne Williamson, who has this famous quote, it's not our darkness, but our light that most frightens us. And it's like, who are you to play small? You're shrinking. Your playing small does not serve the world. You're shrinking. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking yourself so that other people won't feel insecure. So I was working with her. I loved that concept. And, it's a catchy title. And then you open the book and most of the book is literally walking a woman through what does that mean for you? It has to be an individual definition, just like success has to be an individual definition. But I will say to me and to clients, it's like when I get clear about what my values are and what's important to me, and when I start believing that I'm here for a reason, if I do believe I'm here at this time and place for a reason, and I get clear about that, and then I want to go act in the world in service of that, whether I make a lot of money doing it, whether I have a lot of followers or fame doing it, doesn't matter. But I will act in alignment with my dreams and my purpose. That to me is playing big. And that, is scary and exciting. And of course, I always use this metaphor of like the different stages, literal stages I got on over the course of my music career, where like, my first scary stage was the open mic at the dive bar, where the stage was this far off the ground. And then I did that for a year, and then that was easy. And then it's like the next stage was like 6 feet off the ground. And it was like, someday I'll sing on that stage. What's the next big thing? There's always like the next stretchy thing. So it's super personal. It can only be defined by you. And it's not about, fame, followers, money, unless that is your definition of it. It's not my definition of it.
Whitney, I'm interested in, I know you worked with Meg and Joe. When you started working with that, do you mind sharing a little bit about how you now define playing it small? I don't want to play it small. How are you defining it? Is it similar? Is it different? Or is it?
Yeah, it's absolutely, I embrace Meg and Joe's definition of how we get to big and small. I would say for me, what I have learned through the process is I have parts that want a bigger, more followers, more impact, more reach, more financial return. I have those parts, but I would say if I don't nurture my own connection to myself, that connection to self has to stay big, or I stop enjoying any of it. Yeah. And people don't enjoy working with me, because I just get a little frenetic. So I think for me, it's very personal, and I'm going to put it to you in a moment, Iris. Yeah. Bigness means honoring and embracing all these dreams I've had for so long that I'm getting closer to, and deeply honoring that if I don't take care of my connection to myself and I don't make that the biggest priority, and I don't check in with that regularly and keep doing different experiments, then I'm right back to feeling small no matter what I'm doing.
I think for a while it was playing it big meant redefining validation in my own way, right? So a lot of my life is like everyone else kind of, and I think this is probably pretty traditional for a lot of women, but also being an athlete for me, it was, and also an immigrant kid, everyone else's opinion is more important than mine about the life that I'm leading. So whatever anyone else thinks, I'm going to deem them the most valuable voice in my life to be able to tell me how my life is being led and how valuable my life is and how well I'm doing. So I think it's still taking some time, but I think I'm more past that a little bit. But I think part of playing it big was not being afraid to self-define. It's really, really scary to self-define, like my life is going really well, or I like my life. It's exactly how I want it, or I'm living the values of my life. It's actually really much harder than just, it seems easy, right? It seems like, well, if I believe in this and I like this, then I'm going to make all the decisions. But it's really hard to be your own judge of what's valuable to you, because what if I don't like it? What if it's not right? What if I'm making a mistake? So you have all these things. So I love the concept that you present with this idea, because in my head, I'm thinking, I only have time to get on stage and go, right? So instead of constantly reassessing. So I think that was a huge part of it. Is for me, it's how do I want to lead my life, and how do I listen to myself and not second guess myself And it has ripple effects in other places. I've worked on imposter syndrome quite a bit. We've talked about that on the podcast. So it has some consequences in other places in my life, because I'm always waiting for someone to define who I am and define the things that I can do rather than tell myself. And that's for various reasons. But, I think that's almost uniquely female too in some ways. I don't know if that's true or not, but it feels like we're always looking for someone to tell us that we're doing the right thing.
Right.
Please.
I love that. Thank you so much for all of that. Validation is a big part of it, and culture is a big part of it. And just, including, we do a lot of work with my clients, as Whitney knows, like around desire, like what do you want? And it's surprising how much actually time and effort it takes to distinguish what we actually want outside of what other people want for us, or what the culture tells us we should want, or what we want that we've inherited from an insane culture. So what do I actually want? And, just to acknowledge, I think in the past 6 years for me, playing big, actually, the definition of that has changed, and I think it will continue to change. But just to acknowledge, like, I can write a book about women in business and coaching and playing big, and I can also like have an uncomfortable, vulnerable conversation with my brother about misogyny in the workplace, and I have. And no one will see that. I'm not going to post it on Instagram. It's not going to get me clients. It's not going to get me likes. But that is also playing big. That is speaking in the moment in a real relationship about something that matters to me, and that will have a ripple effect in ways that can't even be measured. There are thousands and thousands of people, activists, teachers, who are changing our world and our systems that are not on Instagram. They're not doing it for visibility. And they're still having a massive impact. So maybe it's something about impact too, as I'm sort of unpacking this. What's the impact I want to have?
Yeah, on others and on ourselves, right? We talked about like playing big might be gardening.
Right.
That's what's juiciest or most life-giving.
Right. Right. Maybe playing big is taking a nap because I'm doing the radical act of self-care in a grind culture that tells me I'm not allowed to rest. Maybe that's me playing big.
Yeah. So we just get to define what's big, what's brave, what's what's calling to us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anything else you want to say on any of the topics we've explored or otherwise, Megan Jo?
I think it was so interesting. I was thinking about both of you today and really grateful for your sisterhood with each other, and for the work you're doing. And one of the other overlaps that I see and appreciate in the way we all approach this is, first of all, we are in it as well. We are not claiming I've got it all figured out, and how, we are in the process also. And that so much of it is like the unlearning, the untraining, the unconditioning. So I guess it's my word of encouragement that this insanity, this nonsense, this patriarchy, this bullshit, it's learned. Therefore, it can be unlearned. I circled up with my rock stars this week. They had to post videos of themselves singing in our online group. And of course, now all of the demons are flared up, right? I'm not good enough. I'm pitchy. I didn't look good. I didn't do it right. And I said, just take a minute and imagine 4-year-old you is here. And she comes into the Zoom screen and they're picturing her. I said, is she worried that she's pitchy? No. Is she worried that she's offbeat? No. Is she worried about what to wear? No. She just wants to play, So it's like, it takes discipline and practice, as we are all, we can all testify to that, and it can be unlearned. And let's keep unlearning together, sisters.
Yes. That is another amen. Yes.
Yeah.
There's not a destination of here we go. Once we do all these things, we're going to be in a place of finally being there. If I do this, then that. I think we're always in the process of moving and growing. And one of the biggest themes I feel like are coming up in this season with Whitney's awesome book coming out too, and listening to you, is what we're really trying to do, or what we're feeling, maybe this is coming out in our untraining, is a better relationship to ourselves, and in being in better relationship to ourselves. So I feel like you've come on, and this is kind of the theme that we're playing with this season. Yeah. So I'm just putting it out there, is we're not doing all these things to get to a destination to be more successful, although we might get more likes, we might have this, we might have invisible victories. But I really think in the end, what we're hoping for is this better relationship to ourselves. So I'm hoping that's coming across. But Whitney, what do we say at the end of every episode?
Keep untraining.
If you like what you hear and you want to join our tribe, we'd love for you to like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And we're also now on LinkedIn, so you can find us there as well. Oh yeah, LinkedIn, baby.